Hello everyone, today we are starting the story of a rowdy, young, and ambitious orc named Gull, who excels at three things: running, running fast, and well, running away. But when one chaotic misadventure puts him face to face with Wran, a mysterious dark elf, fate hands Gull a mission that no one else in his village could keep up with, literally. Please leave a like as today's like goal is 1,500 likes to hit the subscribe button for more videos. So let's start the story without any delay. The story begins in the rather unremarkable village of Bubas, an orc settlement nestled between towering mountains and dense wild forests. It's the kind of place where everything looks calm, but chaos is always just around the corner. Gull, always full of energy and probably a little too much enthusiasm, is sprinting through the village. He's on a mission, straight toward Bork Restaurant. Now, Bork isn't your typical restaurant. The chef here is Auntie Lozens, a no-nonsense orc woman with a kind of knife skills that would make a ninja weep. She's calmly butchering meat, her movements sharp and precise. In one slick motion, she tosses a hefty piece of meat into the air and freezes for just a moment, as if giving the universe a dramatic pause. And before the meat can hit the ground, Auntie Lozens slices it into perfect low pieces with blinding speed, all without batting an eyelid. She's the owner and the only chef at Bork, and frankly, nobody else could handle the job like her. Meanwhile, Gull, ever the opportunist, can't resist a free snack. He charges through the restaurant, leaps up mouth wide open, and snatches one of the flying meat chunks in midair. His grip on it is as deadly as his desire for food. He then keeps sprinting without missing a beat. After all, you don't slow down when you've just stolen food from Auntie Lozens. Auntie Lozens, not one to let things slide, especially when it comes to stolen food, charges after Gull. She's got fire in her eyes and a knife in hand, ready to deal with this little menace once and for all. She throws the knife with deadly precision, but Gull, quick on his feet, manages to dodge. The blade just makes off a piece of the stolen meat, but Gull keeps running like he's on a mission for the Orc Olympics. The village is alive with activity. Orc builders are hard at work constructing a new house from massive logs. They're sweating, grunting, and doing whatever orcs do when they're building stuff. Meanwhile, Gull is practically congratulating himself. Free meat and no consequences. He might as well retire from life after this legendary move. But his victory is short-lived because in classic Gull fashion, he isn't paying attention. Bam! He crashes headfirst into a log being carried by one of the builders. The stolen meat flies out of his grip as Gull stumbles back. The orc builder, a solid wall of muscle, barely feels a thing. Gull, however, is probably seeing stars. The builder turns to see what just hit him, clearly annoyed by the interruption. But Gull, shaking off the dizziness like nothing happened, takes off running again, as if smashing into a log was part of his daily workout routine. The builder, not one to hold back his thoughts, yells after Gull, but it's pointless. Gull's already long gone, ignoring any threats thrown his way. Next in Gull's path is a farm where an orc family is hard at work, sweat dripping down their faces as they swing scythes, chopping through the tall grass like it's personal. Each stroke sends blades of grass flying in every direction, and Gull, in typical fashion, charges right through without a care in the world. He barely avoids getting his head taken off by a scythe mid-swing, but you know Gull. He's not one to let a little thing like almost losing his head slow him down. The wind whistles in his ears, but all he can see is the path ahead. Nothing else matters. It's like he's on a mission, even if no one's really sure what that mission is. The farmers glance up briefly as he zooms by, too tired to even ask what's going on. One orc woman shakes her head, wondering why this kid is always running around like something's after him. The male orc doesn't bother looking into it and tells her that only the dumb, bald kid himself could explain why he's always running like that. He adds that at least the little menace is scaring the birds off the crops with his wild, unpredictable dashes. Meanwhile, Gull, blissfully unaware of the fact that he's become the village's unofficial bird repellent, keeps charging forward. Eventually, he reaches the forest, where his peers are in the middle of something far more serious, a rite of passage into orchood. They're about to hunt a big fat boar, which is currently rooting around in the grass, oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. The elders had drilled two crucial words into their heads: patience and silence. So the young orcs are crouched in the bushes, trying their best to be both. Emphasis on trying. One of them, however, loses patience quickly and grips his spear tighter, deciding that waiting is overrated. He eyes the boar, knowing it's too late for the beast to escape, and without a second thought, jumps out of the bushes with his spear ready for action. Victory is practically his until Gull comes crashing into the clearing with all the subtlety of a tornado. His wild entrance completely distracts the hunter for just a moment, but that's all the boar needs. With a startled grunt, the boar bolts for freedom, leaving the hunter standing there, spear mid-swing, looking like he just got his meal snatched from under his nose. If boars had middle fingers, this one would probably be waving it on the way out. Gull, as usual, pays absolutely no attention to the chaos he's caused and keeps running like nothing happened. The furious hunters exchange looks, plotting revenge. If they don't catch another boar soon, they might just roast Gull instead. If nothing else, he'd make for a pretty entertaining barbecue. But then, as if mocking them, the boar suddenly stops not too far away, standing perfectly still. The orcs can't believe their luck. One of them starts grinning, already imagining the feast they're about to have. His friend, equally thrilled, is practically drooling at the thought of sinking his teeth into some juicy boar meat. Tonight's going to be legendary, or so they think. Unfortunately for them, the boar has other plans. With a loud, unapologetic fart that echoes through the trees, it bolts again, dashing away at top speed. The two orcs, their dreams of dinner shattered, chase after it in a rage, yelling threats at the pig, who just outsmarted them. Gull finally slows down, his legs wobbling as dizziness hits him like a runaway cart. The abrupt stop after his mad dash leaves him swaying, but he only halts because he finds himself staring at an obstacle that even he can't outrun, a mighty mountain. But does this intimidate him? Of course not. In fact, he boldly announces to the mountain that today is the day it will be conquered by none other than Gull, the great conqueror of mountains. Without a moment's hesitation, he charges forward and leaps, grabbing the nearest ledge with the grace of, well, a very determined orc. He climbs as if the mountain has personally insulted him, hand over hand, left, right, never pausing for a breath. Suddenly, the entire mountain shakes, nearly sending Gull tumbling. He looks down and sees the source of the earthquake, a lone orc warrior from his village, slamming the mountain with thunderous blows. For some reason, the orc looks suspiciously like Bruce Banner mid-rage. Yes, this guy even has the iconic ripped pants. Truly a Hulk in spirit and wardrobe. Each powerful blow shakes the mountain, and poor Gull clings on for dear life. But his confusion quickly turns into excitement. Instead of being discouraged, he practically yells out in joy. A real challenge? Bring it on. Spurred by the unexpected battle below, Gull climbs with even more zeal, determined to prove that nothing, not even a Hulk-like orc tantrum, can stop him. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of shaking ledges and near falls, Gull reaches the top. His face, slick with sweat and exhaustion, is lit up with pure, unfiltered joy. If mountains had feelings, this one would probably be rolling its eyes right about now. You might be wondering why Gull has been running like a madman from the start. The answer is simple, really. He's Gull. And what more reason does he need than the thrill of adventure and the desire to prove himself? Standing triumphantly at the summit, Gull gazes out at the uncharted lands stretching beyond the horizon, his heart swelling with excitement. He shouts to the world now at his feet, proclaiming himself the great conqueror of mountains. Gull vows to venture even farther beyond the lands he conceived, determined to be known as the strongest, the boldest, and of course, the fastest conqueror of all mountains. All of Gull's excitement evaporates the moment he realizes he's staring at a sunset. Wait, sunset? Already? Horror overtakes him as it hits him that the day is ending, and fast. He cries out, not quite believing it. How could he have forgotten that today is the big test? But one where he's supposed to bring back some loot? As if the universe itself is punishing his absent-mindedness, a fierce gust of wind suddenly hits him, almost knocking him clean off the mountain. Gull scrambles and grabs a ledge at the last second, saving himself by the skin of his teeth. Not exactly a great look for a future conqueror. Meanwhile, back in Pooba's village, things are a little more organized. Every orc is gathering at the largest homestead for the traditional orc gathering, one of their most important ceremonies. Chief Garrick, the fearsome leader of Bubas, is set to oversee the hunt ceremony, a rite of passage for every young orc. Surviving in the wild is no small feat, and it's something every orc must master to prove they're ready for the challenges of their world. The veteran orcs, from farmers to warriors, have been training and evaluating the new generation, and tonight marks the culmination of all that preparation. This is supposed to be a celebration of 4 young orc warriors. Except there's only one problem. There are supposed to be 4 orc warriors, and as usual, a certain young, bald-headed Gull is nowhere to be seen. Chief Garrick is not pleased, his brow furrowing as he sits on his throne, wondering where in the world that kid could possibly be. Gull, still sprinting through the woods long after the sun has dipped below the horizon, is more desperate and out of breath than ever. His lungs burn and his legs are wobbly, but he keeps going. Suddenly, he spots a rabbit innocently nibbling on some grass. And just like that, Gull remembers the whole point of the day and hunt. His heart sinks as he realizes he should have been at the ceremony by now. But he's not one to give up so easily, even when he's running on fumes. Despite the fatigue, Gull shifts into high gear. If there's one thing he's undeniably great at, it's running, preferably away from his responsibilities, but still running. He lines up his arm for a perfectly timed move, focusing all his remaining energy on what's about to be a flawless snatch. In one smooth motion, he grabs the clueless rabbit by the ear and keeps going, not slowing down for a second. As he speeds toward the village, rabbit in hand, he figures better to show up with something small than nothing at all. But even Gul knows he's in deep trouble. Chief Garrick, sitting impatiently on his throne, is not going to be amused by Gul's late entrance, or by his rabbit-sized offering. This night was meant to be sacred for the entire village. Meanwhile, Gul, trying his best to impersonate an NFL player, racing towards the chief's home at full speed. He bursts into the gathering, bald head gleaming, rabbit in hand like it's his prize football. In his mind, he's just scored the touchdown of the century. Gul arrives, sliding into the room like the world's greatest athlete, puffing out his chest as if he's Gul the Conqueror. But in all of his excitement, Gul completely forgets what's waiting for him inside. The fearsome orcs are far from impressed by his grand entrance. In fact, they're glaring at him with a mix of irritation and disbelief. Turns out, a rowdy show doesn't exactly win over an audience of grumpy orcs. Trying to play it cool, Gul meekly clutches his tiny rabbit and awkwardly shuffles through the crowd, hoping to blend in. But Chief Garrick's gaze stops him cold. He was a massive beast of an orc, practically oozing power and strength, a living embodiment of the might of their people. Without so much as a blink, he announces to the gathered Honto, "The hunters in training, that the moment has come. It's time to line up and reveal the fruits of their labor. Each one has had an entire day to hunt, more than enough time to bring back something to fill his stomach." The first to step forward is the rough and edgy junior hunter, Kagan. He proudly presents a massive boar, still so full of life it's continuously letting out a symphony of farts. The villagers roar with laughter and cheers, clearly impressed, while Chief Garrick gives a nod of approval, though just enough to acknowledge the effort. Next up is junior hunter Dobuk. With his bruised head and battered fists, it's obvious he's gone head-to-head with his prey, quite literally. But Dobuk proves that his skull is tougher than the hooves of the deer he brought back. The crowd showers him with praise for his sheer Orcish strength, and even Chief Garrick cracks a rare smile, nodding in approval. The third junior hunter, Mutu, walks in with his head held high, proudly displaying his prize. He's managed to take down a big horned sheep without even breaking a sweat or getting his clothes dirty. The chief can't help but clap in approval, genuinely impressed by such a promising young hunter in this batch. The villagers start calling Mutu OP because, let's face it, the kid is basically overpowered compared to everyone else. Then in comes Gul, the mighty junior hunter, or so he believes, is holding a tiny sad rabbit like it's the greatest catch of the day. What Gul lacks in impressive prey, he tries to make up for with pure vibes. But the villagers aren't buying it. There's no cheering, no celebration, just a heavy, deathly silence as if the entire room collectively sighs, "Really?" Chief Garrick, who was in a decent mood moments ago after seeing the other juniors, feels his blood boil. This is all Gul could manage after an entire day of hunting. The fact that Gul is the son of Gulfin, the greatest blacksmith in Booba's village, only makes things worse. Garrick's eyes narrow and his fury starts to radiate off him like heat from a forge. The little bald troublemaker, clearly sensing the danger, trembles in his boots, fumbling over his words. In a moment of sheer panic, he accidentally calls the chief Chip instead of Chief. Insulted not just by the pitiful offering, but by Gul's whole display of mischief, Garrick's anger hits its peak. And to make it even worse, Gul's antics have now brought shame to his mother on this sacred night. With all that in mind, Garrick's fist clenches, burning with a fiery rage. He throws it with blinding speed, like a missile locked on its target, aimed squarely at the trembling little troublemaker. Gul takes the full force of Chief Garrick's disciplinary punch, level 1 as they call it, which comes from a fist almost as big as Gul's entire body. The impact is so intense that for a moment, everything goes black and white like he's suddenly in an old movie. The entrance to the homestead gets obliterated as Gul sails through the air like a rag doll. Chief Garrick's strength is so overwhelming that 2 orc warriors have to leap in and catch Gul with all their might to stop him from flying into who knows what dimension. At that moment, it feels like Gul's soul has left his body. The pain from the dent in his stomach is so severe that his senses just switch off and he's knocked out cold. When Gul finally comes to, the hunt ceremony is over and he's lying in the middle of the village all alone. Some orcs were kind enough to patch him up, but the sting from that disciplinary punch is still very much alive. Level 1 packs quite the punch, apparently. Chief Garrick had only wanted his junior hunters to take the day seriously, and it seems Gul spent it goofing off. On a day meant for strength, discipline, and proving themselves, Gul had made a mockery of the tradition by being weak and lazy. Garrick doesn't even want to look at Gul's bald head anymore. The little guy needs to reflect on what he's done, and probably invest in some armor, just in case there's a level 2. Gul knows the chief wants him to reflect on his actions, but that punch was a bit overboard. As he strolls through the dimly lit village, the throbbing pain in his stomach serves as a constant reminder. Soon enough, he finds himself at the entrance of his house. the home of the greatest blacksmith. But instead of going in, Gul keeps walking. The last thing he wants right now is to face his grumpy old lady. Just imagining her fearsome, well-equipped wrath is enough to send a shiver down his spine. So he whistles a tune and keeps going. Eventually, he arrives at his secret base, a hidden cavern near a cliff at the top of a mountain. It's his little sanctuary, and inside he's got everything he needs: food, a bed, and all the comforts that a young orc could want for a night alone. In the corner, there's even a little lamp that lights up with a simple shake, giving the place a cozy glow. After the chaos of the day, collapsing onto his bed feels like heaven. There's nothing quite like a good nap after nearly being punched into another realm. But just as he starts to relax, his injury flares up again. The ache in his stomach refuses to let him rest, and on top of that, the consequences of his actions start to gnaw at him. Turns out, guilt doesn't come with an off switch. His whole body is tingling in discomfort, making sleep impossible. For now, he figures he might as well take care of nature's call for some relief, because even his bladder seems to be working against him tonight. In his secret base, the world is his toilet, or at least the edge of the cliff outside the cavern. Despite the pain, Gul never misses an opportunity to have some fun, even if it means playing around with his own pee. He's become so skilled at using the cliff as his toilet that he can now perform his signature move, the legendary rolling thunder pee. It's quite the accomplishment, really. But just as he's enjoying his little game, his fun is cut short by something far more alarming: a massive fire raging in the middle of the forest. Squinting, he realizes this isn't just any ordinary forest fire. It's moving too fast, too deliberately, like it's charging through the trees, because Gul's day clearly hasn't been bad enough already. To make matters worse, a strange sound rumbles beneath his feet, coming from the very cliff edge he's been carelessly using as his personal bathroom. In the blink of an eye, Gul's open-air toilet crumbles, right in the middle of his rolling thunder performance. The cliffside collapses beneath him, and he's still midstream. Of course it would. It seems the cliff has been blasted off by the same bizarre incident connected to the forest fire. As Gul plummets through the air from a terrifying height, he somehow manages to pull his pants up, small victories, but his pee continues its own journey downward, falling right alongside him. Gul crashes into the rocky ground with a bone-jarring impact, adding a fresh new injury to his collection. This time it's his back that's in agony, causing him to let out a scream of pure pain. Just when he feels his consciousness slipping away as if fate couldn't get any crueler, the final insult arrives. His own pee comes raining down from above, landing directly in his wide-open, screaming mouth. The taste is certainly unforgettable, but on the bright side, it keeps him from passing out. Gul frantically tries to spit out the pee, thrashing around like he's been possessed by an evil spirit. The combination of stomach pain, back pain, and the salty taste in his mouth feels like a special kind of torture. But just as he's in the middle of his personal nightmare, something else snaps him out of it: a massive flaming beast shaped like a wolf charging through the forest. And worse, it's heading straight for him, chasing a dark elf who looks battered but fiercely determined. Let's rewind to a few moments earlier. The dark elf sprints through the dense orc forest, lungs burning, heart pounding. Behind him, the flaming wolf charges, relentless. He's completely wiped out, barely holding on, and his trembling hands grip a knife. Desperate, he throws the knife with every bit of strength left, sending it soaring through the air like a speeding arrow. For a split second, there's hope. Maybe, just maybe, this will work. But nope. The flaming wolf swats it aside like it's a pesky mosquito, snapping the blade in two without even breaking a sweat. The elf curses under his breath, realizing his only hope of delaying the beast has completely failed. For days now, he's been on the run, his wounds slowing him down more and more. Meanwhile, the beast, a monstrous wolf-like creature with blazing fire in its eyes, stays hot on his trail. On closer inspection, the wolf isn't just made of flame. It has metal fixings on its back, belching steam and smoke. Its claws, sharp and terrifying, are strong enough to grind down the solid stones of the orc forest as it moves. And it has only one goal locked in its fiery gaze: to catch the dark elf. With all its might, the wolf slams its claws down, nearly tearing the ground beneath the dark elf wide open. He manages to dodge at the very last second, but the force of the blow is enough to send him stumbling in a way that's anything but graceful. Gritting his teeth, he powers through the shockwave with sheer grit and determination. After what feels like an eternity, he finally regains his footing, but not without consequence. His condition worsens, and he coughs up blood, splattering it across the ground as sharp pain radiates through his body. Despite everything, he remains focused on his mission. He has to protect something vital, even if it means his soul shatters and his mind fades. Behind the steaming beast, two silhouettes emerge, walking toward him with an unsettling glee in their eyes. Two evil-looking goons, one shorter with spiky hair and a sly gaze, while the other is a taller fool. They are watching the Dark Elf's agony like it's their favorite show. The Dark Elf feels an ominous weight settle on him. His body trembles, partly from pain and partly from fear. But even then, he reaches for another blade, because faltering is not an option. Not for a Dark Elf assassin. He draws another throwing knife, putting every last bit of strength into his throw, fully prepared to fight to his last breath. But his injuries have taken a toll. The knife, like the one before, is effortlessly flicked away by the beast. And now we get to the reason why Guls' legendary rolling thunder pea moment got rudely cut short. The knife, deflected up toward the cliff, retains just enough force to slice off a chunk of the cliff's edge, right where Gul had set up his prestigious toilet. The Dark Elf decides to pour his last bit of strength into running again, making a mad dash deeper into the forest. He's so focused on getting even a sliver of distance between himself and the flaming beast that he completely misses the tiny bald orc casually throwing up, well, piss on the nearby rocks. Guls, still tasting the aftermath of his unfortunate drink, is utterly bewildered by what's happening. All he sees is a severely injured Dark Elf being chased by what looks like a demon straight out of a nightmare. And just like that, it hits him. This chaotic scene unfolding before his eyes is, in fact, real. Gul, now utterly panicked, tries to get away with all the desperation of someone who's had a really rough day. After all, falling off a cliff, accidentally drinking your own pee, and then seeing a monster chase a Dark Elf is definitely not how he planned to spend the evening. The Dark Elf finally spots the young orc making a scene and quickly considers the possibility of a nearby orc village. If there is one, maybe, just maybe, he could escape this situation alive. He tries calling out to Gul, but the bald orc is too busy pretending he's not terrified of the beast. In fact, Gul's come up with a brilliant plan to use the falling debris as a weapon. Genius. Without hesitation, Gul kicks a chunk of rock toward the beast, which he's now dubbed Hot Dog, because clearly that's the priority right now. Hot Dog, however, looks down at the tiny rock with an arrogant smirk, fully expecting to swat it away like a bothersome fly. But much to its surprise and ours, the rock hits its mark, cracking one of the beast's sharp paws. For a brief moment, Gul feels a spark of triumph. Take that, Hot Dog. But reality quickly sets in. He's still a tiny bald orc, and now he's managed to piss off a terrifying creature. His next move is to stick to what he does best. Run. Run like the wind. Witnessing the ridiculous speed of Gul's mad dash, even the Dark Elf assassin is momentarily impressed by the young orc's engine. Sadly, while Gul is fast, he's also clumsy, and not exactly the best at paying attention. He misses a stray rock along the path, and that tiny misstep sends him into an unstoppable barrel roll across the rocky ground. Unable to control his momentum, Gul is now on track for his second unintended cliff-diving adventure of the night. He crashes face first into the cliff, flipping and flailing like a rag doll caught in a hurricane. His injuries are piling up both physically and emotionally. After what feels like an eternity of tumbling, Gul finally hits the ground, his body limp and still, like a particularly unlucky potato. The Dark Elf, having followed him down, stands nearby, unsure if this kid is even alive. But just a few seconds later, Gul's survival instincts kick in. He twitches back to life like someone rebooting a very confused machine, and immediately senses someone standing beside him. Without a second thought, he unleashes a nasty uppercut, followed by a crisp slap, because apparently one punch wasn't enough, all while demanding to know who the stranger is. Only after the flurry of panic-driven blows does Gul somewhat make sense of the situation. Realizing he's just slapped a total stranger, he offers an awkward apology, calling the Dark Elf brah in the process. Not exactly the formal greeting elves are used to. Noticing the pointed ears and the elf's complexion, it dawns on him. This might be the first time he's ever seen an elf. And of course, his first instinct was to slap him. The Dark Elf, with a steady composure that doesn't quite match his weary state, introduces himself. Adrizin Ranwarin from the Redstone Forest. Adrizin, heavily wounded and in desperate need of help, is about to formally ask Gul for assistance when the flaming hot dog beast catches up, now looming atop the cliff. The metal fixings on the creature's body start clanking like a steam engine, the noise and heat rising to terrifying levels. A scorching fireball forms on its massive maw, swirling with intense heat. Within moments, the blazing fireball launches at a terrifying speed, like a meteor crashing down from the sky. Gul and Adrizin are frozen in shock, barely able to process the incoming attack. There's no real choice here. Either they jump with everything they've got, or they'll be roasted alive. Adrizin, despite his injuries, manages a smooth dodge. Gul, on the other hand, lives up to his reputation by throwing himself onto the nearest painful surface with impressive dedication. But Adrizin's injuries flare up and blood loss becomes critical. His vision blurs and his only hope lies in the young, clumsy orc in front of him. He desperately needs Gull's help, but right now, Gull is too focused on saving his own skin to listen. Adrezen fights to stay conscious, but his body gives out and he passes out as the fearsome beast inches closer from behind. Moments later, Adrezen regains faint consciousness and sees something he can't believe. The orc who had run away earlier is now carrying him. Gull is still crying in fear, but the kid is risking his life to carry a complete stranger's safety. But Gull isn't listening to any reason. His mind is fixated on one thing: getting out of here fast. Unfortunately, that's getting harder by the second as the beast ramps up its speed, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Gull, who's been doing all the running for the past few minutes, suddenly feels the sharp presence of a deadly attack closing in from behind. With no time to think, he makes a split-second decision. He chucks the dark elf into the air, hurling him away from the oncoming impact like he's tossing a sack of potatoes. Just in time, too. Gull, relying on his speed and razor-sharp instincts, ducks beneath the slicing force that whistles just above him. After that smooth dodge, it's back to running like he's late for every important appointment of his life. Meanwhile, Adrezen, having been launched far and high, is now plunging down from the night sky like an elf-shaped comet. Gull's speed and grit save them both. He dodges the lethal strike by a hair's breadth while keeping Adrezen safe. Well, as safe as one can be after being chucked into the air by a panicked orc. That flaming hot dog's slicing energy missed them by mere inches, which luckily for Gull means his head remains attached. And since he's bald, there's no hair to singe, of silver lining. But the chase is far from over. Hot Dog is already cooking up another fiery spear from its fearsome maw. For now, the most reasonable plan is to hightail it to Booba's village. If they can make it, they might find help from the adult orcs. However, they need to survive yet another massive fiery explosion first. Somehow, against all odds and logic, they pull it off again. They narrowly dodge another kill shot, although Gull's pants and ass aren't so lucky. They're now crispy and Gull's backside is officially on fire, literally. Now fully acquainted with the terrain, Gull navigates through the twisting vines while clutching onto Adrezen like a sack of potatoes. And because orcs handle stress differently, he's doing it while singing a local orc tune, because why not? It doesn't take long for Gull to zip through the area with his rear end out for the world to see. He somehow manages to get Adrezen just outside the orc village as they're showing up pantless as a totally normal thing. With his impressive speed, Gull almost feels like he's earned the right to throw a smug look back at the pursuing beast. Too bad there's no time for gloating when your butt's on fire. Meanwhile, back at Booba's village, it's just another quiet evening. Chief Garrick, the village leader, is sitting at his favorite ramen stand, enjoying the one thing that brings him peace in this crazy world: ramen. After another stressful day of being chief, he sighs deeply. This bowl of glistening, godly noodles is the only thing that truly understands his pain. Chief Garrick adores his ramen. He could sit there, sniffing the steam all day long. The mere thought of that first bite makes him giddy, like a schoolgirl waiting for recess. His massive, battle-worn hands grip the tiny chopsticks, turning the whole scene into a strange but sacred ritual. He lifts the first batch of noodles, blows on them gently, because trust him, these noodles can scorch your tongue in an instant, and prepares for the perfect bite. Just sit back and enjoy Chief Garrick's impromptu ramen mukbang. But before the divine noodles can bless his taste buds, his moment of zen is utterly destroyed by a flying gull and a dark elf crashing straight into the ramen stand. The once pristine ramen stall is blown to bits, with noodles and cookware scattering everywhere from the impact. Gull and Adrezen immediately pass out, surrounded by the wreckage, while the chief's precious ramen lies in ruins. Chief Garrick's happiness evaporates in a split second. The joyful, ramen-loving orc is gone, replaced by a towering volcano of rage. His eyes darken, veins bulge from his forehead, and pure fury courses through his body. Gull, barely conscious, mumbles a plea for help against the hot dog, but that's the least of Garrick's concerns. His only regret is that beautiful, irreplaceable bowl of ramen. All that pent-up fury, it needs an outlet. Garrick, moving with terrifying speed, twists his body around, his eyes filling with rage and tears. His fist clenches, the trajectory locks in place, and in a heartbeat, he delivers a punch so powerful it literally changes the art style. This move, which he calls Ramen Revenge, hits the beast with such force that its body bounces helplessly, crashing into every structure in its path. Hot Dog doesn't stand a chance, and as it tumbles, everything in its way, walls, trees, anything unlucky enough to be nearby, falls to ruin, all in the name of lost ramen. The fearsome beast now barely resembles a wolf or a dog. It's more like a crumpled heap of fur and metal. Launched straight into the area where the two mysterious figures stand, the beast skids to a stop at their feet. But these two blue-skinned individuals are completely unbothered. They just smile, tossing aside the ruined creature as if it were a piece of trash. To them, a failed mission means one thing: a useless pet. But now, They're not just interested in the elf, they've set their sights on the orcs as well. Chief Garrick, having regained his composure after sending Hot Dog to oblivion, orders the nearby orcs to sound the village horn. The deep bellow rings through the air, echoing throughout the village. Orcs of every profession, young and old, immediately spring into action. While many rush to evacuate to the village shelter, others take up arms. For them, the sound of the horn isn't a warning, it's a call to action. The veterans of Booba's village, hardened warriors, ready themselves for battle. They know what's coming, and they're prepared to fight with everything they've got. Led by Chief Garrick, it's a battalion of orcs against two mysterious figures who clearly reek of bad news. But if these intruders think they can walk into Booba's village uninvited, they're about to find out just how big of a mistake they've made. With a heavy step forward, Chief Garrick leads the charge, his fierce orc warriors right behind him. The stage is set. The main event has begun. Meanwhile, Guls is completely panicking. A dark elf, Adrezen, has finally lost consciousness from sheer exhaustion and his injuries, leaving Guls to frantically figure out what to do. Not far from the chaos, the group of the junior hunters are sneakily observing the situation. Two of them, understandably, want nothing to do with the madness unfolding before their eyes, but Mutu wants to get closer. Kagan tells Mutu to go first, but Mutu insists that if they're going in, they go as a team, because if you're gonna make a bad decision, make it as a group. After some chatter and hesitation, just as the orc uncles gear up for battle, the three stooges, Mutu, Kagan, and Dobuk, rush over to Guls' side. Poor Baldy, still caught in a full-blown panic, finally notices his buddies have come out of the village, eager to witness the action up close. Naturally, this moment obviously calls for an epic handshake between Guls and his friend, because nothing screams teamwork like shaking hands in the middle of chaos. The junior hunters, however, are a bit more confused when they see Adrezen lying on the ground. Kagan squints at the battered figure and asks, "Who's that wilted eggplant?" Dobuk, always quick with an observation, remarks, "He's covered in blood." One of the orc warriors spots the reckless kids and immediately roars at them for being so close to the battlefield. Trying to stay cool under pressure, the trio quickly explain they were just looking for Guls, because of course sneaking into a full-on war zone is the best way to find a missing friend. Meanwhile, across the field, the mysterious blue-skinned duo finally decides to make their move. Both wear smirks that scream confidence, as if facing an entire orc battalion is just another Tuesday for them. And somehow, that confidence feels earned. Guls shivers at the sight of those two smiling men, and even Mutu feels the suffocating pressure building in the air. He nervously asks the orc uncle who exactly they're facing. The uncle, with a grim expression, replies, "Clench your tits, boys. We're up against blood demons." Just then, Adrezen's eyes flutter open. Meanwhile, Chief Garrick remains unfazed. His focus is squarely on the two blue-skinned intruders, issuing a firm warning. Turn back or die right here and now. But the smaller of the two demons doesn't seem to take the chief's threat seriously. He introduces himself with a smug grin as Izol Wright, vice captain of the Greed Demon Army. Izol even makes a proposal. They'll leave as soon as they reclaim the sneaky dark elf. Chief Garrick, however, is having none of it. He fires back with an introduction of his own, making it clear that he won't be pushed around in his own territory, and especially after the Ramen incident, bargaining with demons is out of the question. Garrick's ultimatum is simple. The Greed demons can either leave or be buried in the ground. Izol bursts out laughing, clearly amused and confident that the orc chief will regret his words. That laugh is all the taller demon needs. With a grin stretching from ear to ear, he springs into action. His speed is nothing short of terrifying. Gone with the wind in an instant. For a brief moment, Chief Garrick senses doom, but it's not for himself. It's for his army. Chief Garrick spins around, shouting for his warriors to hold their ground, but the taller demon's movements are brutal and lightning fast. Orc warriors, known for their toughness, are taken down one by one in a single devastating charge. One resilient orc warrior at the last second manages to block the massive fist of the muscular demon with his blade, but even the best reaction time and skill mean little when facing sheer brute strength. The orc is sent flying through the air, clutching his partially destroyed blade as if he weighs nothing. Thankfully, some tiny helping hands are waiting to catch him. The four junior hunters, Guls, Mutu, Kagan, and Dobuk, grit their teeth as they break their uncle's momentum, barely managing to prevent a nasty crash. But even for a battle-hardened veteran, it's clear these demons are far too strong. The size difference alone is staggering, as orcs are known for their hulking frames, yet this eerie, muscular demon towers over them. This brute demon introduces himself as Fine, the third seat in the Greed Demon Army, and from the look of things, he's just getting started. The junior hunters are starting to feel real worry creeping in. The orc warrior tries to applaud the demon's badass introduction in his head. Feeling inspired, he decides to make his own cool introduction. Problem is, his name is literally Bob the Builder. However, Bob proudly introduces himself and points to the sturdy house he just finished constructing, as if it's the pinnacle of orc craftsmanship. And to be fair, when it comes to orc build quality, Bob the Builder really is at the top of the game. His structures are sturdier than most heads in a headbutt contest. The demon, Fine, can't help but chuckle at the introduction. He didn't expect to be up against someone who specializes in building, a perfect match for a demon whose only talent is crushing everything in his path. Fiend primes his legs, preparing for a charge, while Bob stands tall, pride swelling in his chest. He knows the younger orcs are watching and he's determined to protect them. Before things get any more out of hand, Bob yells at the brats to get out of the way. Now that they've seen what these enemies are capable of, genuine fear lights a fire under their behinds, and they don't need to be told twice. With his cracked blade in hand, Bob the Builder braces himself to go for one more round of strength against the hulking demon. But it's clear, the strain is intense for Bob. His muscles are trembling and sweat pours down his face, while Fine just smiles maniacally like this is all some fun, twisted game. Just as Chief Garrick warns his troops of the incoming danger, he makes a critical mistake. He takes his eyes off the other enemy. Izol, the vice captain of the Greed Demon Army, is already airborne, preparing a deadly kick aimed right at the back of the chief's head. The strike lands with a sonic boom, powerful enough to destroy anything in its path. But thankfully, Chief Garrick's reactions are lightning fast and his defense. Tougher than a mountain of orc armor. He tanks the hit as if it's nothing, swatting Izol away and forcing the demon to retreat. Izol, however, isn't bothered in the slightest. In fact, he's amused. He's fighting the embodiment of orc strength, and the challenge only makes him laugh. Chief Garrick is far more capable than Izol initially expects, but that just excites the demon more. Garrick, on the other hand, knows the situation is dire. After witnessing the demon's blinding speed, the chief realizes he needs to end the fight quickly. Taking off his jacket, Izol taunts Garrick. To him, this is just the beginning, or if he goes all out right from the start, maybe the end. He then zooms across the battlefield as if the laws of physics simply don't apply to him. Chief Garrick braces himself, prepared for a frontal attack that mysteriously never comes. But the chief's razor-sharp combat instincts kick in. He knows his back is wide open. Without hesitation, he spins around with a bloodthirsty look, unleashing a savage, blind spinning kick. The strike lands squarely on Izol's face, sending the demon spiraling upward like a relentless cyclone caught in a storm. But Izol is nothing if not formidable. Despite the force of the blow, he manages to recover mid-air, landing back on the ground with balance and poise after just a few dizzying seconds. Looks like this demon isn't going down so easily. Izol doesn't feel pain from the chief's kick. Instead, he feels a surge of excitement, wanting to fight Garrick even more. That smug smile of his vanishes in an instant, and before the chief can react, Izol becomes a blur, closing the distance in a heartbeat. The next thing anyone knows, the demon's knee is smashing into Garrick's face with brutal force. The chief is sent flying, blood pouring from his face as he loses control of his body, tumbling helplessly across the open field. But Izol isn't done, not even close. He continues chaining his brutal, bloody combo of strikes, each hit landing with frightening precision. For Izol, this fight is starting to feel almost boring. Garrick's massive body is battered and bloodied, finally being sent crashing down from above like a meteor, leaving a small crater in the ground where his blood pools. A demon knows no mercy, and Izol proves it with a vicious stomp to Garrick's head, driving it even harder into the ground. He sneers, blaming the chief for being a fool. If only he had just handed over the dark elf. Now all Izol wants is for Garrick to witness his beloved village crumble into dust. On the other side of the battlefield, Bob the Builder faces off against Fine. Bob knows that these demons are after the mysterious elf, and that elf just so happens to be with the village kids. He needs to buy time for the brats to run, but as he stares up at the towering, muscular figure of Fine, he starts to think this might just be the end for him. But Bob is an orc, and orcs don't back down from a fight, even if they're up against the bone-crushing strength of a demon who looks like he's been bench-pressing mountains for fun. With his trusty blade in hand, Bob charges in, but the moment their weapons collide, his sword is pulverized into dust. For a split second, Bob knows what's coming next. He has nothing left to defend himself against the raw power of this high-ranking demon. He's a sitting duck, and a god-sized demonic hammer is about to come crashing down. Fiend wipes Bob out effortlessly, sending him flying, and as if that wasn't insulting enough, the demon launches him straight into the home Bob had proudly built. Bob hits the wall. His injuries are severe. A deep crater stretches across his torso and stomach, but Fine isn't finished. With that devilish speed, the muscle-bound freak charges again, making sure Bob is literally attached to his own house, which now doubles as his casket. A savage punch crushes Bob's insides, and the excess impact raises the sturdiest house in the village right off the ground. Bob the Builder is utterly defeated. Fine, with twisted pride, praises Bob for being brave until he finally breaks. The demon has no intention of letting this orc buy any more time for their mission. Not far from this tragic scene, the junior hunters run for their lives, carrying the dark elf, fear-ridden, all over their faces. They gain some distance, but Fine's demonic speed is far too much to outrun. There is no way Phone is going to let the dark elf get away. With all his strength, he punches that hits like a ton of TNT, and when the dust and smoke clear, someone else stands amidst the chaos. She has long, lustrous black hair and fierce, determined eyes. She blocks the demon's powerful fist with just one hand. Doduk recognizes her as Auntie Lozens, while Mewtwo excitedly points out that she's his master. Lozens is the chief's right hand, and she's just arrived to save the day. Finally, some hope. Let's rewind a bit and witness the evacuation efforts of Booba's village. Lozens, chief's right hand and all-around village badass, is leading the charge to get everyone safely inside the emergency shelters. Meanwhile, on the other side of the commotion, a frantic messenger orc is sprinting toward the village elder, eager to deliver urgent news. Intruders are at their doorstep. But the elder, pipe in hand, looks like he couldn't care less, probably because he's seen it all and then some. With his fearsome, battle-worn face, the elder orc already knows what's happening, thanks to the deafening explosions from the battlefield. He's not exactly sweating the details. What's another invasion to an orc who's lived through a few hundred? Just as Lozens ensures everyone is secured, without wasting a second, she dashes toward the front lines. The evacuation area is high up on a cliff overlooking the village, while the war is raging down below. From that vantage point, Lozens spots the junior hunters sprinting for their lives, clearly being chased by something they really don't want catching up. Realizing there's no time to take the safe route down, Lozens makes a split-second decision. Jumping down from that height is crazy, but not for her. Activating her Ryu Spirit Beast, the energy of a massive rhinoceros bursts from her body. Because what's more terrifying than a charging orc? A charging orc with the spirit of a rhino, obviously. An older orc nearby explains the scene to those who don't know. Lozens' spirit beast, the rhino, is something truly special. Only a few orc warriors are blessed with such power, and it takes endless grinding, leveling up, and side quests to awaken an inner beast like that. The sight is something to behold, and everyone watching knows that when Lozens' spirit rhino is in play, things are about to get real. And maybe a little bit wrecked. In Lozens' case, her Ryu Spirit Awakening grants her incredible strength and skin as tough as armor. Not exactly someone you want to mess with. She's not the chief's right hand for nothing. With one swift, powerful jump, she launches herself like a missile, expertly controlling her body as she rockets through the air at breakneck speed. Her target? The junior hunters, who are about to become a demon's afternoon snack. Fiend is just moments away from racking up an orc child quad kill, but Auntie Lozens in full beast mode is already on the way. With the spirit and strength of a rhino, she's the ultimate orc fighter. In a perfectly fitting moment, she stops the demon's brutal attack with just her right hand. That's right, one hand. Fine immediately realizes this newcomer isn't someone to be taken lightly. He unleashes a flurry of chained attacks, trying to follow up on the block strike, but Lozens easily brushes them off. Cool as a cucumber in an orc battle. Seeing how effortlessly Auntie Lozens is holding her own against the demon, the kids can't help but cheer. It's as if their savior has literally descended from the skies. Mewtwo swells with pride, boasting about how awesome his master is, while Gul quickly jumps in to assert that his Uncle Bob is way more badass. Because why not bicker about heroes in the middle of a life-or-death situation? Meanwhile, the poor dark elf is still bleeding out on the ground, practically forgotten as the kids argue over who's cooler. Hearing their nonsense ticks Lozens off, and for a moment, she's almost as fearsome as the demon she's fighting. She yells at the brats to shut up and focus, reminding them there's a dark elf in desperate need of medical attention. She's still assessing the chaos around her, but the smart move is clear. The kids need to get the elf to Mr. Buddha for treatment before things get worse. Priorities, people. The biggest problem still looms right in front of Lozens. Fine, the demon is standing tall and ready to wreak havoc. But in Booba's village, anyone who causes trouble is on the fast track to being eliminated. It's time for the grown-ups to step in and handle things. Every orc, regardless of age or profession, is ready for the fight. Even the butcher lady is prepped to smash some skulls alongside the farmers, who look like they've been training to become the village's version of the Incredible Hulk. Fine eyes the group about to gang up on him, but the demon doesn't seem fazed in the slightest. Leading the charge is Lozens, her combat style both savage and refined, a dangerous mix of pure skill and raw power. Tapping into her spirit beast, she enhances her leg strength, preparing to strike with explosive force. With one massive stomp, the ground erupts beneath her, a chunk of earth shooting up like a rhino horn, towering over the malevolent demon. But does Fiend care? Not even a little. The demon simply leaps over the rising ground with unnatural strength and finesse, like he's in some kind of demonic gymnastics competition. But Lozens is locked in, fully focused on the battle. Without missing a beat, she channels more spirit beast energy into her other leg, using the lifted ground as a ramp. With incredible speed, she launches herself toward Fiend mid-air, catching the demon by surprise. For a brief moment, the spirit of her Ryuju beast emanates around her in translucent form. Charging, unstoppable rhino. All that concentrated power funnels into Lozens' fist, now aimed squarely at the demon, ready to pierce through anything in her way. Lozens clashes with the demon's fist, and the impact sends shockwaves through the battlefield. It's a pure showdown of raw strength, and while it seems like a draw, Fiend is left in a much more precarious position, rapidly falling from the sky. But this battle isn't being fought by just one orc. Unfortunately, not all the adult orcs are as combat savvy, and Fiend, even with minimal control of his falling body, can still dispatch them with ease. Just as the demon finally lands, he stumbles for a moment, trying to regain his balance. But before he can fully steady himself, two fast-moving blurs, the orc ladies on a mission, are already circling him like a pair of sharp spinning blades. The butcher and the farmer carve into the demon's flesh with expert precision, leaving nasty wounds on either side. The smug grin Fiend wore moments ago disappears, replaced by silent rage. Apparently, getting treated like a slab of meat isn't on his list of hobbies. These two orc women are slicing him up like they're preparing for dinner, and he's not having it. To stop their attack, Fiend snaps their blades clean off, leaving the orc ladies shocked and weaponless. With their coordinated attacks brought to a halt, the demon takes a deep breath and spins around, creating a powerful air vacuum that repels everything in his immediate vicinity. The orc ladies are blown back, but before Fiend can bask in his victory, enter the Hulk orc. The Hulk-like orc, built like a tank, sees the demon's wide-open back and seizes the opportunity. He unleashes a series of bone-crunching combos on Fiend's back. But while impressive, it's about as effective as throwing pebbles at a mountain. The hits only succeed in enraging Fiend further. The demon counters with a savage speed, but the Hulk orc dodges with surprising agility. Unfortunately, Fiend's next move is a brutal face grab, followed by a point-blank death sentence. With a ferocious slam, the Hulk orc's head hits the ground, the sound echoing across the battlefield like a grim warning. Fiend is now officially beyond mad. And when a demon gets mad, you know things are about to get even uglier. Lozens recovers from the collision and rushes back into the fight, her eyes locked on the brutish demon. If she can land her spirit beast-infused strike, she might just save the Hulk orc from the brutal beating he's taking. Meanwhile, on the chief's side, things aren't looking any better. Izol has thoroughly beaten Chief Garrick and is now casually reminding Fiend to finish off their enemies and secure the Dark Elf. But Fiend isn't listening, probably because he's too busy being murderously angry. His rage has taken over, and he's mindlessly mashing the Hulk orc's face with his fists, utterly consumed by fury. Lozens, charging with all her might, is just a few seconds too late. Even so, she pushes forward, determined to land her Meteor Rhino punch. The force behind the punch is worthy of a great orc warrior, and when it connects, the impact is so powerful that it flips Fiend's world upside down. But to her shock, the demon regains his footing almost instantly. The only thing Lozens manages to knock off him is his hat. And that's where things get weird. Fiend freezes for a moment, the world seeming to stop with him. His hat is gone, and his bald head, complete with 3 strayed poultry-like hairs, is exposed for all to see. If this was supposed to be a fashion show, Fiend just lost. The demon's unhinged grin returns, not at all bothered by the orc girl's power. In fact, he's amused. Lozens has heard tales of how strong demons are, but seeing it firsthand is downright ridiculous. She's used up nearly all her energy in that single strike, and most of the villagers are already out of commission. Exhausted, she can only hope that she's bought enough time for the kids to escape. For the sake of the injured and fallen warriors, the brats must get to safety. But as it turns out, the stupid young orcs didn't run at all. Instead, they're hiding in a bush, watching the battle unfold like it's some kind of action movie. Mutu is even celebrating how strong his master Lozens is, completely ignoring the fact that they were supposed to get Adrezen to Mr. Buddha, the village doctor. You had one job, kids, one job. Hearing the rustling nearby, Lozens' veins almost pop in anger. These kids are beyond dumb at this point. The moment they realize they've been noticed, they start pointing fingers at each other, as if that's going to save them. Now they're not only terrified of the demons, but also horrified by Auntie Lozens, Wood's a whole other level of scary when she's mad. The chief's right hand has every right to be furious at these knuckleheads for not thinking things through, but there's no time for a well-deserved lecture. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the battlefield, knocking the brats and the unconscious dark elf right out of their hiding spot. As Lozens takes in the chaotic scene, one question lingers in her mind. Did the chief ever get to finish his ramen? Gul, always the expert on village gossip, is absolutely certain that Chief Garrick's ramen time was ruined along the whole stand. Truly, a tragedy. Lozens feels a headache coming on. This situation is spiraling out of control fast. Meanwhile, the chief, who was slumped and beaten on the ground moments ago, suddenly looks revitalized. His face is a bloody mess, but his power level is visibly skyrocketing. Izol can't believe what he's seeing. The pressure radiating from the orc leader is undeniable. This is the kind of power only a beastmaster can wield. It turns out the demons made a massive mistake by giving Chief Garrick a chance to stand back up. His Reiju spirit beast explodes out of him, taking the form of a gigantic bear, perfectly fitting for a warrior of his stature. Izol quickly composes himself, slipping right back into his arrogant, smug laugh. A beastmaster, the strongest orc alive, is something Izol never expected to face here of all places. The chief, who had been holding back to avoid wrecking his village, now has one goal in mind: make Izol deeply regret ever stepping foot in Booba's village, and more importantly, ruining his precious Ramen time. Excited to face a powerful enemy, Izol rushes in first, his speed producing a blur and a powerful sonic boom. But despite his quickness, a simple speed-based kick isn't enough to pierce the defense of an angry orc chief. Garrick tries to follow up with a grab, but Izol proves slippery, dodging out of reach. Another sneak attack comes from behind, but Garrick blocks it just in time. The chief tries to counter, but he's still struggling in the speed department, while Izol darts in for a low attack. It's tough, but Chief Garrick pulls off another successful block. This time, though, he spots an opening. An attack error from the demon presents a small window of opportunity, and the two fierce competitors go all in, gritting their teeth as they clash. Finally, Garrick pulls out his secret weapon, the ferocious and dreadful bear hammer. No matter how fast Izol is, this attack is on a completely different level. With one mighty swing, Garrick brings down the hammer, and Izol, once seemingly untouchable, gets slammed into the ground with brutal force. His entire body bounces on the hard ground like a basketball. Pain slowly creeps up Izol's brain as he squeals in unintelligible sounds. Demons may be brutal, but orcs can match their viciousness blow for blow. Chief Garrick wastes no time, seizing Izol's entire head in his massive hands. The devilish headlock is quickly followed by a lightning-fast knee strike that leaves Izol completely helpless, his body limp like a rag doll. At this point, Izol has become the chief's personal punching bag, getting tossed around like a toy. As Izol is sent flying into the air, it's hard to tell if he even has thoughts anymore, other than maybe regretting every life choice he made up to this point. But his brutal wake-up call comes when he feels the massive orc lock him into a very suspicious mid-air wrestling hold. This is the chief's signature move, the Whirlwind Bear Bomb, a maneuver so powerful it practically creates a natural disaster. The non-stop, rapid spinning scrambles Izol's already battered mind, leaving him dazed and disoriented. Let's be honest, it's a miracle the demon still knows which way is up. Somehow, though, Izol manages to break the chief's momentum, narrowly escaping what would have been a surefire death blow. Retreating quickly, his arms begin to glow with an ominous aura, which solidifies into a dark, menacing arm gear. Fancy. This transformation, called the Soul Cast, is a rare ability only a few high-ranking demons possess. Despite the brutal beatdown, Izol's body recovers almost instantly. The smug smile returns to his face as his mysterious arm gear revs up, ready to unleash a dark, devastating attack. Izol's eyes burn with bloody murder as he charges back into the fray. Fueled by the beating he just took, he turns the fight into a close combat brawl, managing to land a clean kick right to Chief Garrick's jaw. That hit seems to restore his maniacal confidence, and now the demon is back in the game, more dangerous than ever. Izol unleashes a flurry of kicks from all angles, his speed and unpredictability making it hard to track. Chief Garrick, however, remains calm and collected even as he's taking hits for free. It's like he's letting Izol get his practice in. But there's a reason for Garrick's cool demeanor. He's waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. As soon as Izol gets a little too confident, Garrick seizes the opportunity, grabbing onto the demon's outstretched leg with a grip so strong it nearly snaps the bone. Garrick channels the power of his spirit beast. At that exact moment, Izol realizes just how badly he's messed up. The next thing, the vice captain of the greed demon army knows he's eating dirt, and not the pleasant kind. But one bite of the ground isn't enough. Garrick's already priming another brutal serving. When orcs get pushed, they push back 10 times harder, and Izol is learning that the hard way. He slammed repeatedly into the ground, each impact louder than the last, as Garrick hammers him into the dirt like he's trying to plant a demon-shaped tree. The relentless barrage only stops when the brown dirt turns crimson with demon blood. Chief Garrick, feeling it's time to make things official, reintroduces himself as the chief of Booba's village, also known as the Beast. And as he notes, he's not even a full beast master yet. Good luck, future enemies. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, it seems the war with the intruders has hit a bit of a lull. Inside one of the homesteads, the silhouette of an older orc can be seen, cracking his back with a level of dedication that would make any chiropractor jealous. Next, he stretches his legs, performing a one-orc ASMR session of self-chiropractic bliss. Once fully realigned, the orc stands tall, fixes his posture, and without a second thought, explodes out of the house, completely disregarding the door and everything in his path. Because doors are for regular people, not orc legends. Lozen lies unconscious, having succumbed to the brutal beating from the demon Fine. Junior hunter Mutu, watching his master in such a state, feels his anger boil to new heights. Fueled by frustration and rage, the kid foolishly gives away their hiding spot just to scream at the demon. Now there's nothing but empty space between them and the terrifying brute's merciless fist. Not the smartest tactical move, but hey, at least he's got guts. Gul, on the other hand, has a very practical reaction. He wants to run, and honestly, who could blame him? But Mutu refuses to back down, holding onto the principle that orcs must never run from a fight. Great in theory, terrible in practice when you're up against a demon. Mutu might be good at hunting forest animals, but this is a whole other level of nightmare fuel. Despite Gul's better instincts, the three stooges rush in without him, one of them even picking up a tiny stone to use as a weapon. Because clearly throwing pebbles at demons always works out. Fine is insulted that such puny brats would dare charge him, and with a creepy smile, he flicks Mutu away like a tiny ant. One trivial flick from the demon sends the angry orc flying through the air. As for the other two, plans to have a bit of fun with their questionable decision-making skills. A single push to the forehead knocks the other kids out cold, leaving them sprawled on the ground like orc pancakes. Gul watches in sheer terror, frozen by the humiliating display. Now he's the last one standing, tiny bald Gul. The demon flicks at him, the air around his hand imploding with force. When the dust clears, though, is left with a confused look on his face. To everyone's surprise, especially his own, the little bald orc actually dodges the flick perfectly. Somehow he has managed to stay focused on the demon's every move. Thinking it might be a fluke, tries to swat him like a fly, but Gul narrowly dodges that kill shot too. It's not heroic, but hey, survival is a skill. Unfortunately for Gul, jumping, weaving, and hurling insults can only keep you out of trouble for so long. Eventually, you're bound to end up in an awkward spot. Fine, oddly fascinated by Gul's wild antics, watches as the scrappy orc dares to insult him for being ugly, no less. That's some bold bravery, or maybe just poor judgment. Seizing the moment, Gul, because he's feeling a bit too fearless, weaves through the demon's fingers and delivers a brazen kick right to face, knocking out one of the demon's teeth. Even for an invincible demon, that quick kick stings. But what stings more is Gul's relentless trash talk about unfortunate 3 strands of hair. Seriously, when will this kid learn? Of course, Gul's glib tongue lands him in deep trouble. Now genuinely angry, puts some serious muscle into his arm and throws the tiny orc like a record-breaking fastball. Gul shoots through the air like a speeding bullet, destined to slam into the nearest solid surface at alarming speed. But just before impact, a mysterious hand reaches out and catches him midair. The one who caught Gul is none other than Old Man Wran, the elder of Booba's village. For brash kids like Gul, there's only one title they're allowed to use: Elder Wran. The elder doesn't seem fazed by the raging demonic battle happening around him. In fact, he looks more annoyed than anything, like he'd rather be elsewhere. Maybe napping, maybe scolding people, who knows? His first priority is scolding Chief Garrick for, once again, destroying parts of the village. Before making his entrance, Elder Wran had already sensed Lozen nearby and saw the grim state she was in, bloodied and beaten. Now, with Gul safely in his hands, the elder turns his attention to the demon. Fine, not exactly known for his thinking skills, looks confused about what's going on. A typical day for The elder, though, has already pieced things together. He asks the demon if he's responsible for all this damage, though it's more rhetorical than anything. He already knows the answer, and he knows exactly what needs to be done to correct this blatant disrespect. Fenin suddenly feels a sensation he's never experienced before, a deep, unsettling sense of being overwhelmed by a mere orc. The idea is unthinkable, but Elder Wran's sheer aura is crushing the demon in a way that leaves stunned. Unlike Izel, Fein doesn't underestimate the old orc, and he quickly activates his soul cast, transforming into his lean drill form. His mission to acquire the Dark Elf remains the top priority, and despite the unfavorable odds, Umphilin intends to drill his way forward with brute force. However, things are looking bad for the big brute, especially since he can no longer sense Izol's presence. Not a great sign. Realizing he's cornered, Umphilin resolves to bulldoze through with his barbaric strength and fearsome drill. Elder Wran, on the other hand, stands calmly, watching as the demon charges. The old orc activates a partial ray-use spirit beast, the dragon arm. His once green skin becomes covered in golden scales, and the spirit of the dragon integrates into his body, radiating power. With a simple palm block, Wran halts Umphilin's relentless drill in its tracks, as if it were nothing but a minor inconvenience. And while he's at it, the elder decides it's the perfect time for a quick lesson in respect. For a moment, it looks as though drill might push through. But in the next second, Wran tightens his draconic grip, and the solid demonic drill begins to crumble. Piece by piece, it disintegrates into 1,000 tiny shards as fragile as brittle glass. Umphilin gasps in disbelief as his most powerful move literally falls apart in the wind. Elder Wran, completely unfazed, offers the demon one simple piece of advice: stay good night. And with that, the elder unleashes a devastating dragon chop directly to Umphilin's skull. The impact is so powerful, it leaves a massive crater, its unfathomable depth effectively burying the demon. The aftershocks ripple through the village, leveling nearby houses like they're made of paper. In a single decisive blow, Elder Wran delivers the final strike in the demonic intruder battle. He doesn't care why the demons came or what their mission was. What matters is that they hurt his villagers, and for that, the almost invincible Umphilin's head has been reduced to something that doesn't even resemble a body part anymore. As Elder Wran contemplates all this in silence, he's abruptly interrupted by the loud, booming voice of Chief Garrick. The chief, never one to miss an opportunity to stir things up, criticizes the elder for basically leveling the village in one swift blow. Garrick points out the very suspicious-looking crater the dragon chop has left on the outskirts of their territory. Elder Wran remains silent for a beat, clearly unimpressed. Then, without missing a step, he denies the village destroyer allegations and naturally throws in some insults at Garrick, calling him an incompetent fool. The two orcs bicker like old friends, or perhaps more like an old married couple with way too much history. Wran, who was so ancient he showed up to battle wearing just one boot, clearly wasn't even supposed to be here. He should be enjoying a peaceful retirement while the chief takes care of things like demonic intruders. But tonight was an exception. These demons could have wiped out the village if they wanted to. So of course, Wran blames Garrick's shortcomings, which apparently include eating too much ramen and not enough meat. Back at the village entrance, where Izol was supposedly beaten down, a faint blood trail is seen snaking away from the walls, leading into the dark and dense forest. Izol, somehow surviving by the skin of his teeth, is dragging his broken body in a desperate attempt to escape. He wouldn't have had the chance if it weren't for the explosion that took out Umphilen. Now the vice-captain knows these orcs are the real deal. But even as we can state, Izol is a demon who holds grudges. He vows to return with a vengeance, nursing his wounds and plotting his comeback. Meanwhile, the story of Guls' ridiculously eventful day comes to a close. Let's recap. Gul was chased by his auntie with a knife for stealing meat, bumped his head on a log, ran around the forest, climbed a shaky mountain, got disciplined by the chief, fell off his prestigious cliff toilet, drank his own piss, got chased by a flaming beast, fell off another cliff, carried a wounded elf to safety, burned his pants and his butt from a fireball, crashed into a ramen stall, had a showdown with a powerful demon, and witnessed the most epic chop of his life. After all that, Gul is now sleeping soundly, without a single care in the world. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment part 2 down below for the next part. Also consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.